what is going on, students? Hey, my name is Michael. To my left is J Dollar Bills.
Let's go, baby.
To my right is Jamie. And look, we all help out with the student ministry at Revo Church. And man, we've been bringing some episodes to you talking all about how we can grow closer in our personal walk with Jesus and also in our personal relationships with other people around us. We've set out this school year to show you as students how to love God and love others. Yeah. We really believe it's important that we set you guys up with the right tools, the right teaching, the right info to help you know how you can do that in your life. And so tonight we've got a really special topic, but I'll say this. If you haven't watched the other videos yet,
pause
all
this
right,
video.
there's going to be a video here.
There.
Right here.
And then, John, where's the next one? Where's the other one going to be?
This one is going to be right here.
This will be episode 1.
Click on it.
That'll be episode 2.
episode
All right,
2.
click on those
All
videos
right.
if you haven't seen them yet. Man, they've got some good content. We've talked about prayer. We've talked about community.
Yes.
And tonight, Jamie, what are we talking about and why is it important?
All right. First off, I want to say I love that I'm just Jamie. I'm in there with the greats. Like, you know, everybody knows who Oprah is.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need any more names.
No
Just
last
the first
names?
name. Everybody knows,
Right.
like, you know, MCU, you know, Wong.
Yeah,
right?
no, we
You don't need any more
So
names.
Yeah,
no one
all
knows
right.
who Bong is.
And then
Took
you
me
got
a second.
Jamie. I love it. But man, tonight we are going to be talking all about friends and friendship because we talked about community and how the people you have around you are so important last time. Well, today we said, you know what? We want to take that a step further and we want to talk about friendship and really ask the question. We want to challenge you. Are you a good friend or a bad friend? And then also looking at your friends, are they good friends or bad friends? Because I think a lot of times we look at friends and we think that these friends are going to fulfill every area that I need. And that's just not the case. So I'm excited, man. We're going to talk all about friendship. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. Hey, and so like the first thing, getting right into it, like we need to know, if we're talking about friendship, what makes a good friend and what makes a bad friend, right? And I was thinking a lot about this and like the Bible's super clear. All right. So if you ever have questions, like take them to God's word.
Yeah.
John, do you actually want to walk us through that list there of what kind of classifies a good friend in terms of scripture?
Yeah. So the way that the Bible defines a good friend, and you can find this all throughout Proverbs, is that a good friend will always love. They'll always love on their friends. They'll always encourage their friends. They'll always be there to correct and rebuke if you're doing something wrong. They avoid gossip. They always forgive. They're a loyal friend, and they always are there to help another friend out. So man, that sounds like a very good friend right there.
Oh yeah, like that's a list
That's
right
a
now.
solid friend.
That's
And
a
so-
friend that I want.
Yeah, we've talked about friends in small groups before at students, and I always ask the question, like, what are some examples of what you would consider a good friend? And like sometimes they're like, oh, they need to be an A tier. Oh, sorry, as the kids say. They need to be an S tier Fortnite player, right?
Oh my gosh, here we go.
No, but most of the time, the things that students say, I work with middle school guys a lot, so that's where that's coming from. But most of the times, they'll answer things that are on this list, right? Loving, encouraging, like not a gossiper. So I think those are really good characteristics of, man, like those are people I want to be friends with. Ideally, like I like to be friends with somebody who embodies multiple of those traits, maybe even all of those traits, at least attempts to.
Yeah.
And so like I'd say, man, that's like gold standard good friend right there. The
Right
Bible's
there.
clear
Right there.
about it. Those are all things that I'd value. And so if you're like, all right, good friend, got it. Well, what's a bad friend, right? There's no secret formula. I think that a bad friend is just the opposite of what a good friend is, right? Like, And so let's go down the list though. I think like a bad friend will be someone who is like stingy with the love that they give, right? Like they're not always going to be willing to be loving.
Yeah, they're taking, they're never giving.
Right.
Yep, they're gonna be willing to put you down.
Yeah.
And a sign of that is if they put others down, right? That might indicate that one day they might be throwing you under the bus the same way they're doing that.
Right.
Afraid to correct you, right? This is something that we actually might, if we're not careful, put on a good friend list, right? Like, hey, I want to surround myself with people who just love me all the
yes
time
man
and
all
like
the
me
time.
and awesome,
Yeah.
We
but
just want that echo chamber.
Right.
yeah,
It's not good.
no, it's not it. And so, so man, we need to be friends with people who are willing to correct, not someone who's afraid to
Yeah.
correct. A bad friend loves to gossip. A bad friend holds grudges.
Yeah.
A bad friend is quick to turn on you. They're disloyal.
Yeah.
A bad friend always has excuses when something comes up. And so, man, like instantly we can see, all right, there's good friends, there's bad friends.
And hey, let me throw this real quick.
Oh,
Talking
yeah.
about gossip and friends that gossip. If you ever question, is your friend a good friend or not, if they gossip or not, I'm going to say this. If they're willing to talk about somebody to you behind that person's back, you can guarantee they're willing to talk about you behind your
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
If they're willing to do it to one, they're willing to do it to the other. So,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
That just immediately struck a chord. You talked about,
Yep.
bad friends love to gossip, good friends avoid gossip. If people are talking about other people to you, they're probably willing to talk about you to other people.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
just,
Oh yeah.
Keep
there's
that in
a
mind.
John talked a couple episodes ago about not a beige flag, it was a red flag. Anytime someone comes up to me and talks about somebody else, like
Red
and it's just going
flag.
off on somebody else in like a negative way, red flag,
Red
in
flag.
the ground.
Hit the alarm.
Oh yeah.
Everything. Like everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
100%.
sure.
Be careful. And so yeah, that's the list right there. We know how these are good, these are bad. Well,
Yeah.
hey, what has our experience been in the past? Like, have you guys ever maybe? And we don't need to name names for either of these if we don't want to, but have you had an experience with maybe someone in your life who was a really good friend that's always impacted you, or maybe someone in your life who was a bad friend that impacted you? What have you guys run into out there in the world with that before?
Yeah, let me tell you how John is the worst for no.
I'm always here to correct you. I don't know
Always.
why you're thinking I'm a bad
Always.
friend. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. No, man, I've had so many experiences with good friends and bad friends. So many experiences. The best example I can give of a good friend is I got a guy. I'll shout him out. His name's Grayson. Michael's met
go.
Grayson. Such a solid guy that he'll never watch this video.
Grayson's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he'll never watch this video, but it's okay. He's getting the shout out anyways. Let me tell you why Grayson's such a good friend. There's a couple things that he does really well. One of the things he does really well is, man, he loves. He just cares about people. Like, I always say, there's not many people in my life that I know have my back 100%. Like, if I'm running in the wrong direction, they're going to be with me. Grayson's one of those dudes where man, the love that he has and the way he cares. Another way that he's such a good friend is he's always encouraging. Like, anytime I talk to him, we have this thing, I don't like to drive in silence. And so if I'm driving and I'm tired of listening to music, I'm going to call somebody. And oftentimes I'll call Grayson and we'll sit on the phone and we'll talk. And I've never left that conversation disappointed or discouraged. I'm always in some way built up. Man, he's such a good friend. And so when you're thinking about good friends, that's some characteristics that you want. But some bad friends, like I mentioned it with the whole gossip. I've had a bunch of people through middle school, through high school, even into college. And I went to a Bible college. So you think these should be like A+ friend material. Nah, not always.
Yeah.
Like I had so many examples, even like outside of college, where just people would constantly go and they'd come to me and they'd just be yapping about somebody else. They'd just be yapping about them. And then immediately they'd turn around and start talking to Grayson, who's working with me, and start yapping about me to him. And then he's coming like, do you know they were saying that? And I was like, I didn't, but guess who I'm not talking to now?
Yeah.
I guess who I'm staying away from. I've had people that, man, they, in the spirit of it's just jokes, are constantly making fun and constantly picking. I remember through high school, just people that are, oh man, it's just, we're bros and we're just having fun and we're all just picking on each other, making jokes. And then you look and you're like, yeah, well, you've said 15 negative things about me. I said one thing about you and you got all in your feels about it. This doesn't feel like a good friend relationship. So I think, man, for me, that's just two immediate examples that I think about of like a good friend, man. Grayson, he's the guy that, man, if I'm chasing hell with a water pistol, he's right behind you, right behind me with a bottle of water to fill it up.
Let's go.
And
That's
then,
cool.
man, there's so many people that I've had that just constantly will talk back and forth. They're not loyal. They'll be putting you down, putting me down. And then the moment you're like, oh, it's just friends, we're putting each other down, and you do it, and they get all like, how dare you? Don't do that. Say, all right, that's a bad friend. I identified. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that's some of my experiences with
Got
it.
you. What you got, John?
Yeah, for me, like if we're shouting out people, I'll shout out Tyler.
Hey.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like Tyler's
Yes, sir.
my boy, and some of you South Fork students,
Yeah, Tyler's
you know
oh,
Tyler.
Yeah. Yep.
Tyler's awesome, man. Like we've known each other for a long time, and here recently, like within the last, oh my gosh, I guess 8 years. I guess that's not recent. The
Wow.
last 8 years, like we've reconnected, and now we go to church together and we hang out. And man, he's grown a lot, and I've grown a lot. And one thing that he does really well is to encourage you. And one thing I can think about, it's kind of silly, but like in golf, I'm terrible at golf. But he's the kind of dude that would be like, "Hey, man, that was a bad shot, but it's all right. You'll get the next one." And like he'll hype you up,
Yep.
and he'll make you believe that you're better than you actually are.
Yeah.
But he's always there as well to correct and rebuke as well. Like if he sees something, he'll call it out. He's not afraid
Yeah.
to like be like, "Hey, man, that was stupid. Like you're doing something like ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing that." And I love that about him. Loyal guy, man. He's always there to help. He may not say this out loud, but he loves. Like he really truly does love. He's got a big heart. So like Tyler, that's my boy. But I've definitely had experiences with some bad friends. And man, like kind of what you were saying, Jamie, like I remember in high school, and maybe this is just a shared experience with everybody, but you have that friend who is constantly putting you down. But the only reason why you hang out with him is because then he'll make fun of somebody else and make you laugh. And you're like, yeah, okay, now we're buddies.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is just tearing you down. And that's not a good thing. And so I've definitely had my share with people who put you down, and whether you know it or not, it really does mess with your mental state.
Yeah.
And you really got to be careful with that, with bad friends and people who are always looking to throw you under the bus so they can get ahead, or they're just not loyal. I've definitely had my shared experience with that as well. And so anytime you see any of those negatives, man, red flag, put a stop to it. Call them out on it. Be the good friend to them and call them out on it. And if they don't respond well, or they don't want to be your friend, well, so be it, So that's really my experience.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think what's important for us to realize is that as we're talking about friendship, we're not just talking about this just because, we believe that good friends will lead you closer to God.
Yeah.
And bad friends will take you further from God. And you're like, Michael, is it that easy? I think it is. I mean, I think to an extent it really is. If we're saying there's a godly example of a friend, that would mean that person is associated with the things of God. And if there's the opposite of that is a bad friend, then I think obviously they'll take you further. They'll distract you. They'll tear you down. If you don't realize they're a bad friend, that's when it can really become dangerous.
Yeah.
But I'll say this as well for us, because I think, part of this episode is we really want you to identify in your life who's a good friend who's going to take me closer to Jesus, and who are bad friends who are going to take me further from him. But I also want us to flip the script, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to just point the fingers and only look at the other people in our lives who are either good friends or bad friends.
Yeah.
But very rarely do we point the finger back at ourselves and ask, am I a good friend or a bad friend?
Yeah.
You guys shared about good friends. You also shared about some anonymous bad friends. Well, hey, I, in my life, Michael Kavanaugh, have been a bad friend. I have been a friend who has probably checked all of these boxes before, but man, one thing I was really burdened by in college is I was so consumed with me and what I had going on. I became very self-centered and self-serving, and often didn't have time to help other people, right? Like I'd see a call come through from a buddy, and it's like late at night. You're like, oh my gosh, like I don't have, I got to wake up in 5 hours. So, you double tap that
8 a.m. class. Like.
double tap that button and send it a voicemail. Like I'm ashamed to say I was that friend, for a time in my life. And so, man, like I know that it's important for us to learn who am I, because if I want godly friends, then I also want those people to have another godly friend in exchange.
Absolutely.
Like it goes both ways, and we don't think about that. And so the kind of the next question, and it's really a shorter video than most, but the next question is like, what kind of friend are you, right? Like we need to understand, who am I? What am I bad at? But what am I good at? Like, what are my strengths as a friend? And so I think nothing is worse than an insecure friend. Nothing is worse than a friend who doesn't know their strengths, and who is unaware of their blind spots. Because then you're just soaking it in from the other person. Maybe you found a couple good friends, but you're the bad friend, right? It's like if they're like, hey, everyone's got nosy neighbors. And if you don't know who your nosy neighbors are, you're the nosy neighbor, right? Like, if you're like, oh, I've got all good friends in my life, well, you might be the bad friend. You know, I'm not trying to be harsh, but it's the reality. And so we need to know what kind of friend we are. So real talk, John. If you had to say, like, over your course of your life, as you've kind of learned some of these lessons of good friend versus bad friend, have you identified some strengths in your life, some things that you can encourage someone with and really lean on to be a good friend?
For me, like, can I start with the bad?
Yeah, that's fine too. Yep, I like it.
I'd rather get the bad over.
That's cool.
No, for me, like it took me a long time to realize how much of a people pleaser I am, and to this day, I still struggle with it to a certain point. But the biggest thing, and one thing that's, reading this and just seeing like what kind of friend am I think back to a buddy of mine that I had. I still have. We're just very distant now, and I was just so afraid to correct him. I was so afraid to challenge him and to really challenge him on what he was doing in his life. And that led to a road where now, I barely talk to him. I barely see him. He's moved. He's doing things that like I was like would never imagine he would be doing. And it makes one wonder. It makes me wonder, if I'm being honest, like what could I have done different to help curb that? And so yeah, man, like that's rough. But I've definitely done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've done all of those before for sure. But the biggest one has always been to correct people, and it's hard, because you want people to like you, and that's a selfish desire, and we got to identify that and put that away quickly. Because if we don't, then we just become the yes man, and then that'll lead us into something maybe we don't want to be in, but we do it because we don't want to say no, and that leads us down a road that we don't want to go down. So definitely something that I've been working on and trying to improve on. But as far as like the good things, man, like I'm always there to be. I'm there. I'm loyal. I'm gonna be there for you. I'm one to forgive pretty quick. I like to encourage people. Like I said, I'm a people pleaser, so I feel like I do encouragement pretty well. And yeah, I mean, avoid gossip. That's an easy one for me because it's like, what's the point? I don't know. But so I mean, that's some of the things, and loving people.
I'm just good at all of them.
I'm looking at them.
Hey, what's cool though? Let me say this.
Correct and rebuke is definitely something I gotta work on.
But let me say this. This is neat. As you walk with Christ longer, you will begin, like, these things will begin to be a part of your life, right? Like,
I don't want to flex like I'm,
but it's natural though. And so for a student to realize, they might be watching this. You might be new to your faith watching this and say, man, I think I'm strong at one of these. I'm solid at a couple of them. I'm not very good at the rest. I think saying that's okay. It's just help to be aware, and help as you grow in your walk with Jesus. As he begins to kind of sanctify and change our lives, being aware of the areas that need improvement is really important for us, because I think that where we're weak in the good, we're present in the bad, right? So if you struggle like really with forgiveness, that does mean you're likely a friend who might tend to hold grudges and so on and so forth. So like John, you're not flexing. You're just saying like, hey, like I've walked with Christ for a while, and like I'm not the best at all of these, but I am pretty good at some of these things, right? That's kind of the goal, is to get there, right?
And so, I would say my strongest one, in all fairness, is the loyal part of it, the loyalness to friends. Like, man, like if you say you're one of mine, man, like we're gonna do this together, and I'll be there for you, whether you mess up or I mess up, we're there for each other. And I think that's probably my biggest attribute.
Yep.
And all the other ones is good, but on that, be aware of what you're weak in, like you were saying, because it is very important to see that, because if you can't forgive, you're gonna go 20 years not forgiving somebody who threw mashed potatoes at you at lunch or something, and you're gonna hold that grudge all that time. Like, so just be aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are.
And I think to the people watching, they're like, dude, why are we talking about us? Well, I think it's to try to get the audience to see what it looks like to do an inventory, right? What it looks like to do that personal reflection. So Jamie, for you, if you had to look at this list of good, like what are you strong in? What would you say? All right, I know I can bring this to the table in my friendships.
I think. All of them. No, definitely not. I think it's very similar to John, honestly. I think that's why me and John end up so close, is we're just such similar personalities. But so similar in like the way we're friends. Like the thing that I think I do the best out of anything is I'm loyal to my people. If you're riding with me, I'm riding with you. I'm going to ride in that brick wall with you. I will go with you. I think my biggest strengths is, man, I'm loyal. And then if I go through that list, the other thing I think I'm like the strongest at is just the willingness to help or just helping. I'm one of those people, like I'm looking, and when I'm looking at friends or looking for friends, like the number one categories that I'm looking for is, are they loyal? And then I'm looking like, are they willing to help? And so if that's what I'm looking for, like that's what I'm striving to be the best at. Is I want to, like, there's a running joke, like a lot of people when they go to bed, they mute their phone, they put it on do not disturb, like they don't want to be bothered. My phone, when I go to bed, I turn my volume all the way up. I turn it, I don't have that, my silencer switch. If you have an iPhone, mine's turned where it's loud. Like I go to bed.
You don't even have one. You just took it out of your phone.
It's not even there. It's just like every time, because here's the thing, like I want to be known as the person that if you need something, like I'm going to be there for you. And so for me, like that's the biggest thing that I like to, if I'm going to pride myself on anything, like that's where I would say, man, I do pretty well at that. But where I struggle with is, man, there's two of them that I think I struggle with. One of them is, like John said, I struggle to sit down and correct people. Now, if it's not, I want to make this caveat. I have no issue looking at you and being like, you're wrong when it comes to Jesus. You're wrong when it comes to, you read the Bible and you said this, it's not supposed to. I have no issue. Like, I have no issue, student, looking at you and saying, you're wrong when it comes to studying the Bible this way. Like, Jesus died and then Jesus rose. Then I have no issue calling people out when it comes to the Bible stuff. But when it comes to just everyday life, I struggle so hard to look at them and be like, man, that's not right. That's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't be doing that. Like I struggle with that. I don't know if it's an awkwardness issue or if it's I'm afraid they're going to leave me. Like I'm 28. Like I'm not worried about if you leave me. I got my friends. I got my dudes that I'm loyal to that's loyal to me. I'm not worried about that. But I still struggle with this correcting. And then the other one that I think I struggle with at times, and I think it goes hand in hand with the correcting, is maybe I struggle some with the with like the holding grudges aspect. Because again, I'm a loyal dude. I'm looking for people that are loyal. If you burn me and then you burn me again and then you burn me again, I'm going to stop calling on you. I'm going to stop reaching out. I'm going to stop being like, hey, because to me, I'm looking for people that are with me. And so when people are burning me, I struggle in the aspect of, man, like I'm not going to reach back out to them. They couldn't do it. Why would I call them again? And so for me, that's something that I know that I'm struggling with is, man, I know I struggle with correcting people and looking at them being like, that's not right. I know that I struggle in the area of like, man, I'm holding some grudges. I'm not wanting to call on them because they burned me. And so why that's helpful is you might be sitting there and you're like, okay, that's what he's bad at. Why is that helpful? Well, it's good to know. It's good to know yourself. It's the idea of you can't fix things. You can't become better if you don't know what you're bad at. Like there's no growth if you just think you're perfect. If you think you're perfect, you're never going to grow. And so it's the idea of that. But Michael, what about you? When you look at your life, what of that list of good, where do you think you slot in?
Yeah, I'd say
me and John, we're going to call you out.
That's fine. Go for it. Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's taken me a while to realize, but like I'm gonna encourage you and I'm gonna forgive you. Like I'm very good at that.
Yeah.
And I think because for me, encouragement means a lot. You know, so that's my natural tendency. Like I know I can give that back and reciprocate that to people.
Yeah.
And then maybe one of my beige flags is like I might be one of the most unbothered people on planet Earth.
That's so
Like,
true.
It takes.
true.
I don't even know what it would take to truly bother me. Like, I just don't care. Like you can't hurt me. Like you
yeah.
can't. I don't know. So I'm very,
Yeah.
very quick to forgive, and I think some of that is also because like, hey, I was a knucklehead growing up, and like I lived and I relied on people's forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I needed people's forgiveness. And then just because of my relationship with Jesus and like what he saved me from, that's like, I'm big on that. And I just don't feel like I have the right to hold that over somebody's head. And so like, maybe to a fault, I don't know, but like you can hurt me and hurt me and hurt me and hurt me and hurt me. And I'll still forgive you because I love you and I want to encourage you and I want to help you out. So like, I don't know. And then I think for me, like, something I've had to realize over time is I really do still struggle with the helps. Man, like I want to do it, but I don't know. I feel like I always use the excuse of like, well, I've got something else going on in my life right now. Like I've got this going on and like this is busy and I've got a 1-year-old, I've got another baby on the way and like there's always reasons and so that's the hard thing for me is really just like, no, I'll help you. But I know there's people who are way better than me. Like people who will literally drop everything to go and help somebody. Or like Jamie, like you don't even mute your phone at night. Like like because you are ready to help and you are happy to help. Right. And so I think that's really cool. I'm just not the best at that. And I'd like to grow there, but I know that right now, like as a friend, I need to grow in that area. I need to get better at that. But hey, like the point of doing this, the point of going through all of this is really to help students see and realize like it's important that we're choosing our friends wisely.
Yeah.
But it's important that we are trying to be the friend that we're seeking out.
Yeah.
And so, in this series so far, we've just talked about if we're trying to grow closer to God, it all stems from our personal relationships, our personal relationship with God, and our personal relationship with others. We talked prayer in week 1. We talked community week 3. We're talking friendship now. And I think it's just so critical that we understand the people in our lives have a huge role to play in our spiritual growth and development. And so guys, we're short on time. So I'll say this. 30 seconds to give the students, I don't know, like, encouragement, a quick tip for how they can identify the people they need to have in their life, and so they can do the personal inventory and become a good friend to others. What's your quick like, where to point them towards? What would you say?
I would say, let's look at the list again. Love always, encouragement, corrects and rebukes, avoid gossip, forgives, loyal, and helps. Who else do you think does that? I don't know. Maybe God.
Softball.
Maybe Jesus.
Jesus.
So just remember that Jesus is there for you. Jesus is the one that loves always. Jesus is the one that encourages. Jesus corrects and rebukes. Jesus avoid gossips. Jesus forgives. Jesus is loyal. Jesus helps. So why don't we do the same?
That'll preach.
And that'll preach.
That will.
If our goal is to love others and to love God, or love God and love others, let's just be like Jesus. We've said it these last 3 weeks.
Yeah. I think, man, one tip, 30 seconds. I think if you're like me, man, you're your own worst critic. I am so hard on if I do something wrong or I even think I do something wrong. I am the hardest critic. I'm beating myself up. And so if you're going through this and like John said, you're looking at that list and you're looking at Jesus and you're striving to be like that, you're listening to how John's a good friend and how, I'm an okay friend and how Michael's a good friend. And you're hearing these things and you're like, man, like, I'm not like that in this area. I don't do that. My encouragement is this: don't beat yourself up over it. Just start moving forward, because you don't need to beat yourself up on it. You don't need to sit and constantly like, why didn't I do this? Why did I say this? Why am I still doing this? Don't do that. That's not helping you. That's hurting you.
Yeah.
Instead, move forward, take the next step and start saying, all right, today, this morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be a better friend. It's the idea. I heard a guy, he's a super wise guy. His name's David Todd. If you've seen him at South Fork,
Let's go.
He talked about how
David Todd getting a
David
shout out
Todd
on the
getting a
Students
shout out on the
podcast,
Students
man. Who would have thought?
You guys
Let's
will probably
go. That's the
never
OG.
see.
They'll
him
never
right
know
there.
who this man
They'll
is.
never know who this man is. But he talked one time, and me and him were talking, and he mentioned that there's something he does every single day. He said that every single morning he wakes up and he prays, Lord, don't let me fail you today.
Man.
Because he's like, I know that at some point I'm going to, but Lord, don't let today be that day. And he said he wakes up and he says that same prayer every day. And he's like, I don't know how old David is, but he said he's never failed him. So
Yeah.
That'll preach.
That'll preach.
That's cool, man.
Man, when you wake up, when you feel like you're looking and you're like, all right, I'm not a good friend in this area, in this area, in this area.
Yeah.
Instead of beating yourself up, wake up and say, all right, Lord, today help me be a better friend then. Help me be a better friend today.
Yeah.
And just constantly start moving forward. Because when you're beating yourself up, you're just hurting yourself. You're not hurting anyone else.
Hey, that's good stuff,
That's
man. Guys, if you're watching these videos, listen to these two dudes. They got a lot of good stuff to tell you. I'll just say this to close, man. All right, like, your friendships matter. They will make or break your faith. Choose them wisely. Choose the kind of friend you're going to be wisely. And know that over time, as you grow in your walk with God, you will become a more solid friend for those around you. But man, pick them well, because 10 years from now, it's going to make a difference, right? It really will. Amen. And so, hey, that's what we got for you guys today. We always say it, but hey, subscribe. Like we got more videos coming up, more content on the way for you guys. And so if you do hit the bell, it'll notify you when we upload. We're trying to upload every couple weeks. We got one more episode in season 1 that we'll post, and then we'll start posting again in January. So might have like a couple surprise things uploaded for the holiday season. We'll see. I don't know. But hey, guys, we're pumped to have you here joining us. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, revo.students. Like the
All the
video.
things.
Don't dislike.
All the
Comment.
things.
Hey, real talk though, if you want more info or you want to talk with somebody, like just put it in the comments. We'll put you in touch with someone. We'll talk with you.
If you have questions, ideas for season 2, what you want to hear.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
Season 2 ideas, put it in for sure. And we'll see you next time. Jamie, outro us.
Peace.
Awesome. See you guys.